one of the key elements of University of California working with a partner is selecting a partner to do something better than we can do ourselves. And in this case, we're partnering with GE to leverage their vast experience and knowledge about programs, study abroad and travel in other areas outside the United States. And what we leverage right now is the experience. We believe that right now, it's more important than ever to have a world perspective. And as a world-class university at the University of California, San Diego, we take great pride in our research and our academics, but we also realize that our students and students that visit us need to have a world view. And many other countries visit UC San Diego. And with this opportunity, it enables our students to actually have an experience in another country and have that shared world view that years ago we just talked in kind of conceptual design, that we're having this global village, but now we're in it. And through technology that we're experiencing today, our connections have become so close, real and real time, and fast and always on, always moving. And to understand how we integrate with neighbors in another country, we must have to experience and actually engage with them face to face, but do it in a way that is safe. That's one of the most important things that we search right off the bat, is having a safe and a reliable partner, which GE is it. And Polly and her team and the expertise that they bring. I've been able to travel with these individuals, and not only is it a wonderful experience and packed and rich with an experience that is a lifetime memory for me, but it's curated in a way that the takeaways are deep and the connections are rich, and gets a takeaway of a country that you could just never get through media or through newsprint or other mediums, except for having those one-to-one engagements hands-on. So for us, the value added of having the best professional partner is key for us. And that's why, as an academic institution, we've been able to run through a whole series of engagements with GEE on a whole host of levels to ensure that if we offer pre-college credit, that they're actually checking off all the boxes and the security and the comfort that we have in knowing that this is not just an experiential engagement, but something meaningful enough to give academic credit. What we're necessarily looking at, most institutions across the country, regardless of what level of credit, transferring is a tricky process. It's a dependency on the institution of receiving the transfer to make that determination. That was not the motivation for us to offer credit units and have the academic senate and our faculty review this program. Our focus was this, is to, if you're gonna have a meaningful experience, similar to an internship or any other academic, there has to be learning outcomes. And for us to document those learning outcomes on an official UC San Diego transcript lends itself to much more of a viable sign-off and a verification that an individual going through this experience, and for us endorsing it, adds a level of what we think is a higher level standard for an academic experience. And that experience translates into a higher value when individuals in high school are submitting their applications and their personal statements, as opposed to another entity that may have a program or something similar, elements of a program where it's more experiential, but doesn't have that verification and backing to submit to an academic institution. Give a good example, UC San Diego, when they have readers reviewing applications, they'll give more weight to a program connected with UC San Diego versus another program where there may be a better program or a better experience or everything else on paper, but it hasn't been vetted. It hasn't been, there's a question mark versus what, unfortunately, it's not an easy process for GE to go through. And it's not just something that's done quickly. This is a year plus, it's almost 4 years actually, including a site visit that they had to go through just to get this standard. Most importantly, it's a proof and evidence of impact and verification that UCSD has for admission purposes primarily. Looking for the best minds in terms of solving equations or having the highest SAT score. We're looking at individuals that are going to come into the university to take this knowledge, apply it to advance humanity. And to advance humanity, you have to understand a worldview these days. You have to understand that one application may not fit all for our global world. And he has to look also throughout what it looks like 10 to 20, 30 years out. We are at a point right now where the University of California, we're not just looking for the smartest on paper. We're looking at people that are going to be able to advance humanity, make a difference. In some cases, we're looking for the next Da Vinci. We're looking for the next Sally Ride. We're looking for the next Steve Jobs. Someone that has all these pieces and worldviews that can solve the complex problems that we don't even know about right now, but are going to be surfacing in the future. The last part and why I wanted to work with Polly. And Polly's company, I actually chaired the U Symphony for San Diego. As we saw pictures of U Symphony on the trip. And I was fascinated by the feedback that I received when the group came back, and that was the transformational experience. And one of the hallmarks and tenets of my programming approach is that I don't really seek out programs that are transactional. For instance, a campus tour is not going to change the worldview necessarily for a student. But if you have a transformational experience, it's one in which you see the world differently, that you can see yourself doing something differently, or you can actually get more confidence in an area that you thought maybe something you could pursue, or also sometimes where you think, gosh, that's not for me, and I just didn't know until I experienced it. But with Polly's team, there's some complexities in taking an orchestra. And if you want to have the most difficult challenge on someone to put together a trip, try including instruments that are bigger than most of the kids, and actually trying to transport them and being able to organize the kids. And so you're not just worrying about a suitcase, but your suitcases plus a bunch of instruments. And the feedback that we receive is the organization, the transport, the greeting, and also what goes with this complexity is the setup and time that has to occur, and especially in these cities where traffic and other factors and trains are complex. And so we, from my understanding, from all the feedback, is that her routine hit every point, or was on point, and which led to the next piece. And what happened with this trip, the feedback I received, and in my own experiences, the sense of civility and common goal, and the commonality of being able to be one with another person or another community. And so the emphasis on service, I really want to emphasize that piece, because the transformational experiences are one thing, but the sense of giving back sometimes is lost. And what I experienced is a country in which people were quite generous, but also it was quite fun for us to be humble enough to do some fun things. For instance, my experience was I was able to wear an apron and a hat and go pick tea leaves in the middle of the field and have that experience. Was hands-on. If you're looking for hands-on experience, you don't get any more hands-on than the experiences with GEE. That was just one of the experiences, plus the performances and other things that have been alluded to. So complexity, safety, engagement, and authenticity. The last piece I would actually talk about is the authenticity. There's programs and trips, frankly, there must be hundreds of individual companies that want to work with me and UC San Diego. There is only one that we've selected in the last 8 years, and that's GEE. And one of the key factors is authenticity. Just because someone wants to go to a Rome or Europe or something, that's a travel experience. That's great. I'm not marginalizing that. That's a bad experience. But what you gain in terms of going through with Polly and her team, and I find myself being a sales pitch right now, but it's an authentic experience because it's genuine. You're going to be able to go into the Forbidden City, not in a manner where you're just standing in line and trying to walk through it and take some pictures. What is coming out of that experience is the whole appreciation of the historical perspective and the whole leading up to where we are in this point in history. So, and being hands-on to touch, to see and talk and be living in the smells that go around the experience. The same way when you go into the areas where you see these terracotta warriors that were uncovered recently in history, or as Polly announced to me that when I went to the wall, there's a saying that you're not a man until you touch the wall or go into adulthood. One cannot imagine what the wall is until you're actually there and experience, which translates into some of the other question you had is, what do I do and what does it look like for pre-college programs at UC San Diego? And one of our areas that we oversee is Sally Ride Science. And Sally, as a former professor, first American woman astronaut that went into space, had a company, and I actually am now the custodian of her legacy, Sally Ride Science at UC San Diego. And what she used to say all the time, and especially to me and other young women, is that you can't be what you can't see. And so for us, capitalizing on transformational programming is, it's not just about learning what you're learning in books, it's about getting engaged and also learning about failure, learning that making mistakes is the best learning outcome one can make, and embracing the fact that learning comes through many mediums, being hands-on, engaged, and also having a heart of giving back is a recipe for not only learning, but also finding commonality in our human beings with each other around the world. Our focus at UC San Diego, and starting in 2010 when pre-college programming was developed, the entire department has gone from 200 students to over 14,000. It covers 28 states over last year and in 13 countries. And what that means is that we're trying to engage perspectives both in science but also the arts. It's not good enough for us, in our opinion, to think that just solving problems in science, technology, engineering, math on a very binary way, but we're challenging students to say, can you think of many more applications that help advance humanity? And that includes what we think about in terms of Da Vinci. One of the best engineers was never trained as an engineer. He was an artist. You look at Steve Jobs, who said, let's take computers and bring some humanity through their iPhone design that he was known for. So what we're looking for is, we're in search for the next Sally Ride. We're in search of the next Da Vinci. We're in search for the next person that wants to put a lot of knowledge to work and make our planet a little better.